Okay, I thought it would be good again to show making the data file. So here is the original data. Here are the original data. Um, and so we have donor age, patient race, the cause of the kidney disease, the patient gender, and then whether or not the kidney failed in under 5 years. And so a 1 is that it failed under 5 years. So a 1's a bad thing. And so we start with this, and these first two columns are great. They're fine. But patient race here, even though these are numbers, this is categorical data, and we need to treat it as such. And so we're going to need to make, since there are numbers 1 through 4, we're going to need to make 3 dummy variables. Similarly, cause here, it's pretty obvious these are categories. And again, there are 4 categories. We'll need to make 3 dummy variables. And then patient gender, this is almost okay. What we really want are 0s and 1s instead of 1s and 2s. And so we'll have to fix that up and change those into 0s and 1s. Again, because it's categorical. And then we already have 0s and 1s here for the failure, so that's good. So what I did, now I did a couple things already, for time and so forth. So I copied all these data to a new sheet. So here's original data down here, and then the next sheet is recoded, not recorded, but recoded data. And so I start with that same original data, but now I need to create 3 dummy race variables, so I'll call those R1, R2, and R3. And what I'll do is if race is a 1, I'll put a 0, I'll put a 1 here, otherwise it's a 0. If race is a 2, I'll put a 1 in this column, otherwise it's a 0. And if race is a 3, I'll put a 1 in this column, and otherwise a 0. So that means all 3 of them being 0 is the base case of patient race 4. Now, the reason I went with 4 as the base case here was that I actually at some point sorted the data and looked at numbers, and most of the cases are 4s, or that's the largest case anyway. And so I made that my base case. You don't have to do it that way, generally speaking, but that's how I set up this file. Was 4 was the base case. That meant all 0s. So this is a 4 here, and all 3 of those are 0s. Now, so the formula I put in here is an if. I check to see if this is a 1 here in this column. And if it's a 1, I put a 1. Otherwise, I put a 0. And so you see we put a 0 because it's not a 1. And then I did something similar in this one. Again, I checked to see if this column was a 2. If it's not a 2, I'll put a 0. If it is a 2, I'll put a 1. And then for 3, I check to see if it was a 3. And if it is, I'll put a 1, otherwise a 0. And so again, that's why I have all 0s here. So now that I've put the formulas in one place, I can copy them all down. And so you look here, that's a 1. That's under R2. That was a 2. Here's another one under R2. That was a 2. Some 2s here, some 3s. So the 3 was 0, 0, and then a 1. Okay, so I've made that data. Similarly then, for cause, I'm going to do just like I did here with the race. I'm just going to make some simple if statements and check. Now, here I check to see, is it an H? So C1 is an H, and it was not, so it got a 0. And in this case, the D's are the most prevalent, so I made them the base case. So a D should be all 3 zeros here. An H is a 1, an I is a 2, and an O is a 3. So I checked for the H, checked for the I, put a 1 if it's an I, and then I checked to see if it was an O. If it was an O, I put a 1, otherwise I put a 0. So that takes care of all those, and I'll copy those down. And so again, I can kind of check here. This is supposed to be for an O, and that is an O. This is supposed to be for an I, and that is an I. This is supposed to be for an H, and it is an H. And all this, when it's all 3 zeros, I have a D. So I've got my dummy variables in there. Now, gender, I need either 1s or 0s from the 1s and 2s. I could again do an if statement, but I thought it'd just be easier, or well, I don't know. I'm just showing you a different way here. Is that since I just need 0s and 1s, I could just subtract 1 from each of these, and so that's what I did. I just took that value and subtracted 1. And got a 1 if it had been a 2, and the 0s wherever it had been a 1. So there it was a 1, I got a 0. And so there I've recoded those data. I also need to work on the failure, the 0 1s. Technically they're fine, except again, if I'm going to just use my regression, I can't use the 0s and 1s. And so again, I do the same sort of thing. If it was a 1, I put a 0.975. If it was a 0, I put a 0.025. And so I do that all the way down. So I recoded those that way. And then I need to do the logarithmic transformation on the odds ratio as they do it. And so here I take this number, whatever it is, either the 0.025 or the 0.975, and divide by 1 minus that number. I've got that in parentheses so the division works right. And then I took the natural log of the whole thing, and so I get a number, and what I should see is negative 3.66 for all the 0.025s and a positive 3.66 then for all the 0.975s. And that's what I have. Over here I made notes as to what these columns are doing, so that I can remember. Now I could look at the formulas and figure it out as well, but it's kind of nice to have those. And so there I have my data recoded. Now for interactions, data and interactions, what I need to do is just take the columns I want, and I don't remember if I put them over. No, I have not. So you see I don't have them there yet. So these two columns, I want them, and I'm just going to copy the data. It takes me just a hair longer to do it, but so Control C for a copy. And here, now I don't really have to do this with these numbers, but just so you can see, I'm going to do this the same way for all of these. When I paste, I'm going to do a paste special to just get the number so we don't get the formula. And so there, and I've changed the names to shorter names, and I've already put my numbers in to number the columns. So there's my donor and patient ages. I go back here, I need all these, the R1 through G. So I go back here and get all my dummy variables. So there's R1 through G. Take that all the way down. And I'll do a Control-C for copy, but then when I paste here, I'm going to do a paste special and just paste number. And so there, now if I click on one of these, they're just numbers. They are not formulas anymore. And now I need the interactions, and I will show you a couple formulas, and then after that I will probably put it on pause and get the rest in and come back. And so here dp is the interaction of d and p, and so I'm going to say equals d times p. And so I have that. And then d, r1, r2, r3. All right, so I'm just going to do d times each of these things. So equals d. Oh, actually I forgot something. So we're going to actually go back on copying these over, not everything, just these actually. So I have to, let me backspace that and get rid of that. The formula would be fine, but just so we can start fresh. So actually what I need to do here is I needed to normalize these as well. So I I wanted to normalize these as well to make them between 0 and 1 so I can compare coefficients a little more easily among the basic variables that I have here. Again, the interactions tend to be a little smaller, so they tend to have bigger coefficients, but they can still be numbers between 0 and 1 when I normalize these things. So actually what I wanted to do here, was equals, and I wanted to go to my data here, and I could do this I guess a few different ways, but I'm just going to take that data, okay, so that 33 divided by the maximum, and so I'm just typing in maximum up here. It's kind of small, but I think you can see it. So the maximum of this column, so it goes from A2 to A101, I think. Yeah, like that. Now, since I'm going to do this and copy down, I actually need to put some dollar signs in front of my numbers here. The column's fine, but I need to do dollar signs in front of the numbers. So I'm taking my number over the maximum, so I get numbers between 0 and 1. I hit enter, and there I get the 0.55. I copy those all down. I get numbers between 0 and 1. There must have been my maximum at 18 here. And actually I should, because I didn't put dollar signs on the A's, I should be able to do that and look up here and see it is looking at column B. So I'll copy that down. Okay, now that I've done that, so I have all those numbers, what I'm going to do is a quick little trick. Again, because I'm trying to get rid of the formulas just in case I get rid of the column. And so and I'll do this on the interactions as well. So there, I'm going to do a Control C and copy, but then I'm going to immediately, without unhighlighting anything, I'm just going to right click and do a paste special of number, and it warns me that I'm pasting over stuff. But now what I've done is I've just taken those same values and I've made them numbers instead of being the formulas. So it's just taking the resulting number and doing that. So now I can get back to here and do equals D times the P, and I have that, and so I get a number between 0 and 1, and so I'll do that and copy that on down. Now I want to do equals D times R1. Now, I could do, since there are quite a few of these, I could do a little trick here and put a $ on the A. Again, I don't have to, but if I do that, I can make my life just a little bit easier and quicker here, because now I can do all the D's and do like that. And now if I copy that down, I can fill it in a little quicker than doing the formula each time. And in the end, what I'm going to do, and I can do it one column at a time, a few columns at a time, but here are all the D's. They're all formulas right now. But again, if I do my nice little trick of copying everything, so there I can copy. But again, if I paste special and just do number, then those are all now numbers, and they're not formulas, so they're not going to change if I mess with other stuff. Okay, so now I'm going to put it in on pause and fill in. I'm going to do P times each of these other 7 variables, and then do R1 times each of these. Oh, well, actually, maybe I should do a little more just to show you. Okay, so I'll do the P's here, and I'll do it with the nifty $ so I can do it pretty fast. So I need P times R1. I'm going to put that $ in front of the B and come over here and get all the P's. So I'll drag that over. That's all the P's. I'll double click on this thing, get those all in there, and notice they're all highlighted. So actually I'm just going to do a copy and then my paste special while I have that way, and now those are all number. But yeah, I just I forgot that I do need to show you, or want to show you anyway, that so for R1, when I do it, the thing to remember is actually all 3 of those are coming from the same variable. Okay, the variable was a race. And so as I do these interactions to look at an interaction of a race with other stuff, I don't want to do R1 times R2. For one, I know what the answer is. It's always 0. Because if R1 is 0, then it would make R1 times R2 0. If R1 is 1, then R2 has to be 0 because of the dummy variable thing. And so doing the multiplication of these gives me no information that I didn't already have. I mean, I'm just going to get all zeros. And actually, when we're done filling this all in, we're going to see that our linear estimation command doesn't like columns with all zeros, because we're going to get a few anyway. But so I want to take R1 times C1, C2, C3, and G. and then do the same thing with R2. And so you see I've got an R1 times C1, so equals, and I wish you could just type in R1, but it doesn't work that way. So I've got R1 times C1, and I'll do the dollar sign thing again. Let me go up here. Something's just funky about what it's doing there. So let me put the dollar sign there. That looks much better. So there I've got my dollar sign on the C3. Now, and that's not to be confused with the column C3. This is the element column C row 3 here. And we get a 0, and all the R1s, I'll do those. They're just those 4. And again, I can copy those down, do my copy, do my paste special, and I have that. And then see, notice now I do R2 times those 4 and R3 times those 4. So I guess I'll just go ahead and do it. You can fast forward if you want to. So equals, where's my R2 back here? There's R2 in column D, and then times C1. I want a dollar sign on that D. I'll hit enter. Pull that one over. Fill it in. Copy and paste it. I've got that. And then finally the R3. So I'm going to try, let's see, Control C. Oh, well, yeah, I took the formula out already. Doesn't do me any good to do that. Equals dollar sign D3 and times, and I don't remember what, I remember it was column, oh, and it's probably not column D, I've got that wrong. It was column E and then F. So that was column E and then times F3. Usually better to click on them, but I thought I knew and I was wrong. So you can see why we need to click on them. Whoops, went too far. There we go. And put those in, copy, paste the number. And I am finally to my last interaction where I need to do C1 times G, C2 times G, and C3 times G. So now this is the cause interaction. So I don't know, am I in the right place? Whoops. Yes. Okay. So I need equals and then C1 times the G, I3, enter. Now on that, actually the better thing to do here is, because column G doesn't change, is put the dollar sign on the I, because it immediately goes C1, C2, C3, and so I'll do that, copy those over, do that, do my copy and my paste special number, and so I've got all that. And so finally I just need the F, and so I'll go back to my recoded data. There's F, and so I will highlight all those numbers, but again when I paste I'll do a paste special and just do the number. So I need to copy that and go here to my F and do a paste special of just number. And And now I already put in, so this has 39 columns of explanatory variables. You see a lot of stuff here is very unhappy. It says value. I got a lot of stuff there that looks unhappy. We'll get to that in a minute. But here is just my linear estimation command that I've already put in for the 39 columns. And I've got the, I need to do this formula over these formulas here, pull them over, and we'll see this goes all the way over here to the 0 for the intercept. And again, it's not happy. We'll not worry about that for a moment. And so let's see. Oh, and I need to add one more thing. I guess I didn't add this already. So when this is actually working and going and so forth, well, when it's done, I should say when it's done, what I hope are in here are formulas that will work. You can't quite see it all, but what this is set up to do is take my coefficients here, 11 of them. So it is set up for an answer of 11. I tried doing it where it just did all of them, and it doesn't work that way. I can't just do them all. So I have it set up to do it when you have 11 columns here. It will work correctly. And so K here needs to be an 11. When it does, though, what this is doing is taking the coefficient up here times the correct column here, and like I say, I hope it is the correct column by the time you remove everything but 11 columns of the explanatory variables. Remove them over here. I think this is going to work correctly. So we have that linear thing going on here of the coefficient times the variable plus here that one is the intercept, so that's the 12th. And when I click on it, notice it's got a lot more. So there's e to the linear estimation piece. So I'm undoing that transformation divided by 1 plus e to that linear estimation. So I have that formula in there to give us a predicted value. And like I say, I hope it works. And then once we have a predicted value here, what I'm doing is I am checking. I gave it a threshold of 0.05, or 0.5, not 0.05, 50%. I said, hey, if this predicted value is less than 50%, let's put a 1. Now, the reason I'm doing less than 50% and a 1 is, remember, this F, this probability stuff over here, is all based on failure of the kidney, right? So a high value is a bad thing. So if the threshold, if my predicted probability is above 0.5, I don't want that person, maybe, we'll see, but I might not want that person, I should say might not want that person to go into the kidney program or actually do the kidney because we know it has this high chance of failure. Okay. I don't know. I'm not going to profess that that's, that I know their threshold or anything like that. We're just looking at the idea of a threshold. And so right now it's at 0.5. And, but if you, well, let me get that back. notice it's looking up here to see, and so we're going to actually change that threshold to some different values to see what we can get. And then the number correct, I think I need to go, I guess the easiest way to do the number correct is what I want to do is just take, this is going to be a 0 or a 1 in here, and it's telling me whether or not I should go with the kidney transplant. All right, well, sort of. It's telling me my prediction is this kidney transplant will work for more than 5 years. Okay, well, so based on the threshold, what I'd kind of like to do is figure out the number correct that I got. And so this is another if. And what I'm going to check is, okay, if this is a 0, it means I shouldn't, right? I should not do the kidney transplant. Okay, so I'm going to take this value, this AP3, and then I'm going to add it to, and I'm going to go back here. I could go to the original data or the recoded. I'm going to go to the recoded, where is my fail? Here we go. And I'm going to add that. Okay, so I've done that. Now I'm going to go back here to where the formula is. Now I'm going to add those two together, and I'm going to check whether it equals, and it's really hard for you to see. You can see up here better. It's small, but you can see it. I'm going to ask if that equals 1. And you see, if that equals 1, I actually got it right. Okay, because if this value in here is a 0 and my original failure was a 1, those are consistent. And so 0 plus 1 gives me 1. On the other hand, if this value is a 1, that says I want to do the kidney transplant, then I would hope that that person had had a kidney that lasted 5 years. That would be a 0 on the original. So a 0 plus 1 is still 1. So if I get 1 from adding those two, I'm going to place a 1 there, and otherwise I'm going to place a 0 there. And I hit enter, and notice this up here that was a 0 says value. I'm going to copy these down. Why? Well, it's the sum of all these, and this value up here, when these actually fill in and work, that value is going to be the number of these I got right. Okay, so that's what that's going to be. And so I think this is ready. I'm going to do a save. I'm going to also make it a little smaller so I can see stuff better, at least all at once. You know, I see all of this stuff. That's pretty small, so I don't like it that small. We'll go to 100% here. And, you know, I have all this. So this is ready to go. And so now I will simply go here, move or copy sheet. I'm going to make a copy. I am going to move it to the end position, and I'm going to name it worksheet, because that's where I'm going to do all my stuff. Let's see, yeah, I think I'm okay. Yeah, threshold, yeah, okay. So everything that needs to be a formula is a formula, and everything that I don't want to be a formula isn't. So I name it worksheet, I say okay, and now I've got the worksheet one, and this is where this sits when I save it. And so there we have this big file that is now ready for us to start deleting columns. The first 3 columns we're going to delete we'll see in another video, but I just wanted to show you making this video. I'm gonna do another video, and we'll see right away that we need to remove 3 columns, and the reason we need to remove those 3 columns, oh, these aren't centered. Let me center them. They just look better if they're centered, I think. So where did they stop being centered? There, I'll just tell it to center all that. And I'll go back here and tell it to do the same. And center that. So that's all centered. I'm going to go back here to the worksheet and bring it over here, and I'm going to save it. And so probably it will open to this page when you open it. So there is the data file ready to go, I hope anyway, and so we'll call that done for this video.